Joining me now from Washington, D.C., resident fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies, Andrew Arthur. Andrew, speaking of the census, you folks at the Center for Immigration Studies did a fascinating look behind the numbers of the previous census, a stunning number of immigrants in this country. And I'm going to use that word immigrants, meaning both people who came here legally and illegally, I believe, but they are receiving public assistance. This would be taxpayer dollars. 63% of non-U.S. citizens are on welfare. Now that is versus 35% of U.S. citizens. This is somewhere in the neighborhood of 4.5 million households in this country. The American people ought to be outraged.
Yes, and the interesting thing is that even if you factor out the earned income tax credit, which is basically money that you get back for filing a tax return even if you haven't paid any taxes, it's still 58% of immigrant or non-citizen-headed households that are receiving welfare benefits, again, as opposed to 30% of native households. So the numbers are astounding, and quite frankly, it's a real cost to the public fisc. More importantly, it also takes jobs away from American citizens, because those individuals, the working poor who are immigrants, are actually competing directly with native-born, and by not just native-born, but also lawful residents who are already here. So it's a double whammy for the American people.
But that's my taxpayer dollars, and I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to non-U.S. citizens who are siphoning off the public dole. And we need to view this through the prism of that so-called caravan of people, illegal immigrants at the border right now. And here is why the so-called caravan needs to be repelled, and we can't let those people in. There's a headline in the Fox News right now: Honduran woman 19 and migrant caravan scales border wall to what? Give birth in the United States. And so we have video of situations like this, Andrew. Over and over and over again, we see people sneaking under the fencing, under the wall. They're climbing over the wall, very brazen. And in some cases, there are children involved here. And so this is what has to change here. We have to close the loopholes, because these people know that they're not going to be shot once they get on the other side, like other countries might do. And there's an argument of whether we should be arming Border Patrol with the right to fire. That's another discussion. But the bottom line is they know they're not going to be shot at. In fact, they know they might be granted asylum.
Yeah, so when you're talking about that particular woman, she gave birth in the United States. She referred to her baby as her big reward for making it into the United States. And the family was actually released by Immigration and Customs Enforcement on Sunday, shortly after she gave birth. The fact is, immigrants in detention, generally, their cases take about 40 days. Immigrants who are out of detention, on the other hand, their cases take 8 years. So Ms. Hernandez is going to be in the United States with her family for a minimum of 8 years, and quite frankly, it may be longer, because, again, that's probably not going to be the last child that she has in the United States. You know, we have a right to have children if we want. They're going to build up equities. She'll probably get a job. Her husband will get a job. They'll put the kids in school, right. And each one of those things will contribute to the equities that she has.
And we'll pay for it. Again, but that's another subject, is the 14th Amendment. It's being bastardized. It was never intended to be interpreted this way, and we must as a country come to grips with that. But you talked about the asylum cases. A record number, when they finally do get to court, if they get to court, are being rejected. There is an incredible amount of pressure on our court system right now to handle all of these cases. 1 million backlogged immigration cases, including asylum. The burden is on the courts, yeah, but the burden is also on the taxpayers here. 1 million backlogged.
Yes, and you know, the cost of the American people is tremendous. I was a former immigration judge. I was a judge for 8 years, and you know, I was amply paid for that. And I had a clerk. We had a whole court. But there were only about 300 judges at the time. Attorney General Sessions managed to boost that up. He hired 127 additional immigration judges. So hopefully we'll bring that number down. But the fact is that the number of asylum claims that are flooding the system and the number of bogus asylum claims that are flooding the system have two effects. One, they cost the American people money. Two, they drive out the ability of people with legitimate asylum claims to get their claims heard. So, I mean, this is a huge problem. It's one that Attorney General Sessions attempted to undertake, and I hope that Acting Attorney General Whitaker and the next Attorney General follow through with what he's done, and that we start to tackle this problem.
Well, if we close the loopholes, if Congress closes the loopholes, these people won't have the incentive to try and violate our sovereignty and then claim asylum and clog up the courts. It's up to the Congress. It is, frankly, it's not even up to the president, the executive branch. It's up to the Congress. Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 15, they need to do their jobs. Andrew, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.